Remember back in FNaF 4 when the Fredbear plushie says the crying child can't go towards the stage, and the "don't you remember what you saw" line? Some people believe this to be either Elizabeth's death or crying child seeing the missing children's incident, but I doubt that. And that's why in today's video I'm going to be talking about what crying child may have seen, and I'm going to try my absolute best to solve Midnight Motorist.
Reality, my mentality, everything changes so rapidly, and I'm ready for the never-ending fire, dancing with my deepest dark desires. Miracle, how empirical, don't know anything quite hysterical. Everything around me transpires as I fulfill my darkest desire.
So in my last theory video, we've already established that the Fredbear plushie is William, which obviously not certain, but that's what I believe. This is one reason I don't believe Crying Child saw the missing children's incident. If William is the Fredbear plush, why would he warn his son about himself? Especially considering that when you go in that direction later on, towards the stage, William is in the doorway and nowhere near the stage. Plus, William is right there. He can clearly see the Crying Child. If, when he catches you, he'll do something to Crying Child, why didn't he do it right then and there? Also, even if the Fredbear plushie isn't William, he still would have been right there and would have done something to the Crying Child. Also, even if the Fredbear plushie isn't William, he's still right there and would have done something to Crying Child since he can clearly see him. So, I highly doubt that it was the missing children's incident that he witnessed. I'm also not even sure if the missing children's incident happened yet. Like I just said, the "don't you remember what you saw" line doesn't relate to the missing children's incident most likely, and Pigtail Girl's line may have just been relating to Charlie, since she dies not long before Crying Child, and she possesses the puppet, which obviously would move around at night too. As for Elizabeth's death, I doubt that, because it was Circus Baby who killed Elizabeth, not Fredbear or Spring Bonnie. Sure, they're all animatronics, but the fun times were made by William, while Fredbear and Spring Bonnie were made by Henry. And it's made abundantly clear that he's really only afraid of the Springlock suits. Plus, there's no implication that Crying Child even witnessed Elizabeth's death. Maybe there's a stomach mouth on Nightmare Fredbear, but I don't think Crying Child or Michael, who really has the nightmares, would remember the specific stomach mouth detail. And even if they would, I don't think that's what he saw. Do you guys remember Midnight Motorist, right? Yeah. The second bane of every FNaF theorist's existence, right behind the survival logbook. But I think that I have a pretty good idea of what it means. First off, who is Orange Guy? Well, pay attention to his car. It's purple, just like William's car in both FNaF VR or the Take Cake minigame from FNaF 2. So I'm already, just based on that, I'm pretty confident saying that the Orange Guy is William. But there's one other thing I'd like to mention. A while ago, Emperor Krakoa noticed something in the real Jake that I didn't notice, and barely anyone else I know noticed. I've mentioned it in a couple videos since then as well, and basically it's mentioned that Jake and Margie, or Margie, whatever you say, live in a bungalow, and a bungalow is basically a similar style house to the FNaF 4 house, as we see in both the FNaF 4 menu screen and Curse of Dreadbear, the main menu screen of both games, I guess. And you know where else we see a bungalow? Midnight Motorist. And Jake is pretty obviously a parallel to the Crying Child. That should be obvious at this point. And we also see Michael sitting on the couch. Looking at the design of it, it's definitely Michael. Also, this being Henry makes no sense, as Angry isn't an angry, abusive father, but a kind, loving one. And this doesn't make sense to be anybody else. So, William Afton almost 100% has to be Orange Guy. You may be wondering, if it was William, why does it look like an animatronic came and kidnapped the kid from the window? Well, since Orange Guy must be William, this would have to either be a rogue animatronic, a representation of William, or like a misunderstanding, or something like that. It might have been Crying Child's friend coming to see him, and you might think, what are you talking about? But let me just explain. If you guys remember in the real Jake, at one point, Jake's friend Brandon comes to Jake's window, and this might be similar to Midnight Motorist, but I'm just going to tell you now that Midnight Motorist was an animatronic and not a human, but it could be a similar situation, a friend, not a deadly animatronic. If you don't know what I'm referring to, in Midnight Motorist, outside the window there are animatronic footprints, specifically 3 toes. Who else has 3 toes? Glitchtrap. And you know who Glitchtrap looks like? The Spring Bonnie head that we see in the supply closet of FNaF 4. You know what that Spring Bonnie head looks like? It looks like Toy Bonnie, but yellow, doesn't it? And you know who Toy Bonnie looks like? Shadow Bonnie. It's pretty much the same design, but a little bit different. So that's who I think is at the window, Shadow Bonnie. And that's what I think yeah, that's what I think Shadow Bonnie is, like a friend, and I'll explain that in a second. Look back at Midnight Motorist and look at the footprints. There's only one pair of footprints. There's no evidence that an animatronic walked up to the window. Otherwise, we would have seen more sets of footprints. It's as if the animatronic was just there and just appeared out of nowhere. So I think this could be a shadow animatronic. And like I said before, Shadow Bonnie would make more sense. I don't think it was Shadow Freddy because I don't think he existed yet, honestly. So Shadow Bonnie was most likely the thing at the window. Anyways, a new theory that's been talked about recently is that Shadow Bonnie in FNaF 3's glitch trap. And if that's true, which I'm not sure about, but still, if he is, I think that Spring Bonnie in the supply closet was either the glitch trap suit or perhaps an animatronic version of it. And I also think that the Spring Bonnie head in the supply closet is the animatronic suit Shadow Bonnie takes the form of. You might still be wondering what I mean by Shadow Bonnie being Crying Child's friend. This is something that I mentioned about that I talked about in my last video, about what the Fredbear plushie is. In that video, I mentioned that in FNaF AR, Shadow Bonnie makes very specific whispery sounds. In the 7th Stitch Wraith story, we see the puppet make similar whisper sounds as well, and I definitely don't think this is a coincidence, or like an accident or something. There's also the fact that in the FNaF AR files, Shadow Bonnie is referred to as Guardian, and in that game, he's seen with Remnant around him. He is guarding the Remnant, and Remnant is spirits, and this is just like how Puppet watches over the dead children's spirits. She protects them. So what this means is that the puppet, Charlie, either is or is in some way connected to Shadow Bonnie. Let's go back to Coming Home, though. This part is a little bit more speculative, and I'm not as sure about this part, but it's still something to think about. Let's go back to Coming Home, alright? Honestly, one of my least favorite Fazbear Friends stories, to be honest, but whatever. Anyways, in that story, Susie is dead, but she actually doesn't even know that she's dead yet. So what if this means that Charlie, when she dies, her spirit takes form as Shadow Bonnie, but doesn't realize that she's dead? I think she goes to William's house and goes to Crying Child's window because she's just trying to go see her friend. But Crying Child doesn't know that it's Charlie. He just sees Shadow Bonnie and it scares him, so he runs away. And I think this is what Crying Child sees. And another reason I think this is because of a theory that Scott himself confirmed. He once made a post directing people to MatMat's timeline video for some answers to questions. I think we all know the story. This is how Mic Trap was debunked and how we know FNaF 4 is in 1983 for a fact. One of those questions that got an answer in MatPat's video was whether William was literally purple or not. And MatPat said in his video that Purple Guy is only purple because when the background was dark, we needed to be able to see him. He was just a shadowy figure, and that's why he's purple. This is also true for the Shadow animatronics, because they are black themselves, or at the very least Shadow Bonnie is. We know that because in FNaF 2, when Shadow Bonnie appeared, he was colored black, not purple. Regular shadows in brighter settings, though, should just be black or dark, right? But now let's go back to the FNaF 4 minigames. Notice how the Fredbear plushie only mentions "Don't you remember what you saw" when he goes towards the stage. When we go over there, we see the shadows of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. They should be black right now because the background is bright, but no, they are purple. And in the minigames, they're only colored purple in a black background, but in the FNaF 4 minigames, with a bright background, they're still colored purple, for no specific reason. I think this is to show that the Crying Child was afraid of Shadow Bonnie. You might disagree with me, and I do know this is a huge stretch, but if you think about it a lot, I think you might come to the same conclusion that I did. I don't know though, you might completely disagree. So now let's just talk about everything else in Midnight Motorist. So first off, what is Junior's? Well, some people believe it's just a bar, some people believe it could be the FNaF 2 location, which I don't believe, because it certainly has a lot of holes in it, but there is a little bit of evidence to back up the theory that it is the FNaF 2 location, so I'll go over that anyway. Notice how William is turned away from the door, and the only other place in this series where that happens is FNaF 2, where we hear the phone guy say the building is on lockdown, but no one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees. You may be thinking it's not gonna be open that early, and it would be open years later, but if you look through FNaF 4, we have a little bit of evidence to say that it possibly could have been. Remember the line on Scott's website, "Why would the tiny toy Chica be missing her beak?" The only other toy Chica without her beak was the actual toy Chica animatronic, and she was in FNaF 2. She was in the FNaF 2 location. There's also a Mangle toy in Elizabeth's bedroom, implying that they existed already. It could just be that Toy Foxy or Funtime, I'm just gonna call it Fix Mangle, was destroyed in a different location and reused in the FNaF 2 location. But if that's the case, what does the Toy Chica line mean? Honestly, I'm not sure, but let me know what you guys think. Even with these little bits of evidence, like not too much evidence, but even with that evidence, I don't think Junior's is the FNaF 2 location. It is possible that this is the first Freddy's location, since it would probably be open at this point. And I also think it would follow similar, if not the same, rules under a lockdown. So that definitely fits. But if it is the first Freddy's, I don't think it would be called Junior's. So I do think that this is most likely just a bar, since the other two options don't make much sense. Anyways, let's move on. It's pretty obvious at this point that Midnight Motorist is right after Charlie's death because of the FNAF 6 files. Midnight Motorist is displayed right after the security puppet minigame, and it's named Later That Night. So it's basically confirmed that Midnight Motorist was William going home right after he killed Charlie. But the question is, when exactly does that take place? Well, I've honestly always believed this theory that I'm about to share with you guys. But I think Midnight Motorist takes place directly before the FNAF 4 minigames. Why? Well, the crying child ran away from home, so this has to take place sometime before the FNAF 4 minigames, since he is alive. But pay attention to what William says here. He will be sorry when he gets back. What are you planning to do, William? Maybe you're gonna hit him with a belt, or maybe lock him in his room. Oh, as punishment for running away from home and off to that place again, William locks Crying Child in his room. That's what I think Midnight Motorist was trying to tell us. It's possible that this is just showing that he does do that, and then that's why he gets locked in his room later on. But then why would we be seeing this one random instance if it's not this is not the time that he got locked in his room? So yeah, I think Midnight Motorist is right before the FNAF 4 minigames. One last thing to talk about is the dirt pile in that one clearing. Yeah, remember that? Well, there was a theory I saw on Ozone's channel as to what this dirt pile could be, and I definitely agree with it. It's the entrance to Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. I'll leave a link in the description to his video on it if you want to watch that after this, because he explains in more detail. You might disagree, but hey, it's all just a theory again. So there you go. That's everything in Midnight Motorist explained to the best of my abilities. This is all just my opinion, my theories and stuff, or some theories that I took inspiration from other people from, like the Ozone dirt pile thing. But these are all just my opinion, and you guys might disagree with it. So just leave a comment telling me what you guys think. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video there. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on the video. And if you like my other videos, please do consider subscribing. My next theory video will be about the 3 Jeremys. And you might just be thinking, what's there to talk about? We already know basically everything about the 3 Jeremys. But I do have a thought about it, that they could mean a little bit more to the story than we originally thought. So yeah, stay tuned for that video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Impulsive and out, and peace.